RICO and healthcare is up next. This is a proud presentation of attorney Kenneth Haber from Boyd's, Maryland. Even though that's his headquarters in Boyd's, he provides services on an international level. Here on this set, the moderator is attorney Ramesh Khurana from the Khurana Law Firm. Let's see these two attorneys in their question-answer session.
My name is Ramesh Khurana. I am an attorney at law. I have my office in Gaithersburg, Maryland, and I practice immigration laws basically in entire United States, 50 states and Washington DC. And today I have a great privilege to introduce to the audience a very seasoned and knowledgeable attorney who has been practicing healthcare for the last more than 3 decades. Is it correct? Or maybe more than that?
A little bit more, maybe. I
Yeah.
started as a prosecutor in '71.
So
So whatever.
it's about 37 years.
Something like
37
that.
years.
Then
Wonderful.
then
Good
I was
to,
I was an asset for the Bureau
Yeah.
before that. So
yeah,
I mean,
36 years.
yeah.
Good to know that.
Cheers.
So, and you are also a defense lawyer, so you know about RICO, which is a very scary term to
Yes.
the most of the people.
It should be.
Now, in fact, I'm going to ask you a question about the RICO as applicable in the field of healthcare. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, first of all, as I said, RICO is a very important word and very important term, and prosecutors love it. So, please explain what is RICO and how does it really relate to healthcare field? Can you please elucidate?
I will do my best.
Sure.
RICO
No.
stands for Racketeering Influence Corrupt Organizations. And what it is a statute that if you can put the pieces together, you can take a 5-year crime like mail fraud and make it into 20 years. And not only do you get to find the people, but you can take the assets that they gained over the period of their crime and do what's called a forfeiture on
So,
it.
I mean, fruits of the poisonous tree,
Take the fruits of the forbidden tree, right?
right?
Right. When I was in the U.S. Attorney's Office, they first came up with the Racketeering Act a little earlier than that, but people hadn't used it regularly. But I still had a sense of that the criminal shouldn't use fruits of his proceeds. And one time, a defense attorney demanded $10,000 that the FBI had got a bank to turn over to them that they traced from a fraud that a criminal who was charged had committed, and the bank turned it over to the FBI, and the defense attorney wanted it for his retainer. And he kept on bugging me for it, you know, and I said, well, come to my office on such and such day. I called the agent up. I said, bring the $10,000 over to my office such and such date. Put the money on the table. And defense attorney's looking at it. I said, do you want that? He says, yeah. I says, that's the fruits of the crime. That's somebody's fraud money, you know, that belongs to somebody else. Are you sure you want that? He says, that's my client's money. I said, well, you can take it if you want, but if you walk out the door with it, that agent's going to arrest you for possessing fraudulent.
Very interesting.
He didn't touch it. He did not touch it.
Of course, they would not touch it.
Wouldn't touch it. Well, the forfeiture provisions in the RICO are similar, that they can trace the money that was procured through fraud, through the Racketeering Act, and the government can take it. And that's one of the very strong points. They've been able to break up some huge racketeering activity, and we're not just talking about the mafia, we're talking about a variety of different motorcycle gangs were charged with Racketeering Act. You can take a hospital and charge an ongoing type of criminal effort with racketeering because of the nature of the RICO statute. You need a pattern of activity where there's 2 racketeering acts within a 10-year period of time, although when racketeering's going on, there's a lot more than 2 and much more frequently normally. And you show the pattern of racketeering activity, you show its effect upon the entity that is corrupted by the racketeering activity, and you've got the basis of a racketeering case.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, can you please explain the difference between a conspiracy and a RICO violation?
Certainly. The conspiracy is when two people get together, two or more people get together and decide that they're going to commit a crime.
So, in conspiracy, there must be more than one person.
Yes, the essence of the conspiracy is an agreement,
Right.
agreement to violate the law.
It can be oral or written.
It could be oral or written, exactly.
Okay.
And until the racketeering statute came about, it was very difficult to get the heads of the racketeering entities as anything other than conspirators, and often you couldn't get them as conspirators because of the fact that under the statutes, you'd need evidence, and they would intimidate people, kill people in order to avoid that evidence coming to light. The racketeering is a corrupt entity, and being a part of that corrupt entity, all it takes is one person to be an entity. You can have more than one person's being the entity of the racketeering. You can have a corporation, you can have a partnership, you can have a legitimate business that's been taken over by a racketeering activity. And that taking that entity and using it in a pattern of racketeering is the violation. That gets you the same penalty. That gets you, instead of the same penalty of 5 years for the conspiracy, it gets you like a 20-year penalty. Except if it's a capital offense, then you get the same penalty. So you, as the head of a racketeering entity, can get life imprisonment or capital punishment for being in that racketeering effort, where if it was a conspiracy, it'll be like a 5-year maximum sentence plus whatever fines.
So there is a huge difference.
A huge difference.
In terms of number of years, one person has to spend his time in the jail.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's a far more sweeping statute if you know how to use it. And it's very effective. It's very complicated, but the results, the end results, are extremely devastating on those who it's applied to, if it's applied
successfully
effectively.
used.
Successfully, yes.
Okay, wonderful. Ken, I'm going to ask you a very complex question, and my expectation from you is to simplify it to the extent you can. Will you be able to do it?
I will try, but
Okay.
I don't know how successful I'll be able to simplify
If you
it.
can't do it, it will be hard for me to find any other capable attorney to do it. Okay. Now, please explain to me, what does it mean that a RICO violation involves as little as 2 acts of racketeering activity that constitute a pattern of racketeering activity within 10 years, so long as they relate in one of several ways to an enterprise?
Okay.
Now, it's very simple to simplify.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Well, let's start off with an enterprise.
Okay, yeah. What's an enterprise?
An enterprise can be a single individual, it can be a single business, it can be a group of individuals, association, it could be a corporation, it could be a partnership, it could be just about anything you want that relates in some fashion to interstate commerce.
Okay.
The pattern of racketeering activity within 10 years, you have to take predicate acts. And these predicate acts can be mail fraud, wire fraud, it could be interstate transportation of stolen property. There's a number of statutes, criminal statutes, that are enumerated in the racketeering statute that can be predicate acts. And if there's a violation of any 2 of those within a 10-year period where they're constituting a pattern of activity, so it's not just a singular act here and a singular unrelated act there. They have to be related. It has to be a pattern of activity. And normally there's a number of them in order to be a pattern.
Okay.
they relate in several ways to this enterprise. Now, the way they relate is either that they're putting money into the enterprise, taking money out, either they're managing it or using it for their nefarious purposes, or they might be just tucking their money into it and holding their money. You've heard of the term money laundering. Sometimes people want to put money into a legitimate business in order to be able to take money out of it in a taxable fashion. Your laundromats are great for that because they're coin operated. There used to be things called jute boxes, and those were great for it because you'd put coins in and hear the music. And there'd be no records, no good records, so people could launder their money through these enterprises and claim, oh, I got $10 million from this jute box and I want to pay tax on it so I don't have to worry about IRS coming after me. Now I can go and buy myself a house. So there's a number of ways that people can use a legitimate enterprise, otherwise legitimate enterprise, in a criminal fashion. And I know this isn't simple, but
No, this is very simple. Believe me, I'm pretty sure.
well,
Yeah.
that's because you're a lawyer too, sophisticated.
No, believe me, I'm not a defense lawyer. I could really appreciate the way you have explained.
Well, thank you.
Okay, great. Now, we have been talking about interstate commerce so many times. Now, since we are discussing RICO here, so can you please explain what is the interstate commerce for the purpose of RICO?
Interstate commerce doesn't require that somebody's actually traveling in interstate commerce. Interstate commerce can mean that parts, equipments, et cetera, are in commerce, interstate commerce. Interstate commerce can even be use of the mails, it could be wire communications, telephone call could be considered in interstate commerce. So it doesn't take much. Insurance, if you buy an insurance policy and want to defraud the insurance company and it happens to be in the next state, that's an interstate commerce.
It happens all the time.
Happens all the time.
Right. Okay. Now, how can a physician become involved in a racketeer influenced and corrupted organization act violation, especially when he's working in his own office?
Well, he's there and he's working in his office and he's doing the normal things that, that the doctor is doing, and he's operating an otherwise honest practice, giving good services to his patients. But let's say he's getting a little greedy and he decides he's going to upcode. And instead of putting down that he saw the patient for 15 minutes, he puts down that he saw the patient for 30 minutes. And he sends the bill off, and the bill goes through the mails. Now it's in interstate commerce. And his little office now is an enterprise if they want to come in and charge him with racketeering.
Very serious.
Very serious.
Very serious.
Indeed, the federal government often will charge, people with racketeering because of the fact they have the ability to forfeit the assets.
But that act must have been committed intentionally, right?
If it's going to be criminal fraud, it has to be intentional.
For
yes.
the purpose of civil penalties, there is no such requirement.
Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. Now with this, we conclude our program because the cameraman is indicating our allotted time is over. But before I conclude, I must thank you, my dear friend, for coming to our studio and answering questions in regard to RICO. I am pretty sure it's a very scary concept, but it's better to know it than get involved unknowingly.
Absolutely.
So, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.